You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholic, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a trunk, just like Jim. It's more to life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more to life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, buy some bottles, and press them guns. It's more to life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast and Who Dat. And we're going in some more main course here, and it's going to be the game between the New Orleans Saints versus the Detroit Lions, and this game will be in the Superdome at noon. So this is, I believe, this will be the first game where they play at home. And they play 3 games at home, and that's really the only time that they've actually been able to play at home. So of course, you start doing it to where you think, oh, I got three games, three options between who you're playing, and then of course the one that's good is actually a good team is the Detroit Lions. They're what, first or second string for the best team in the league. They're either the 1 or the 2 seed. So of course the Saints, even though they're playing 3 games at home, of course the first one they play has to be such a powerful and impressive and just a game that you didn't see much of before now, obviously, because it's Detroit. They haven't won or done like anything in like 30 years. But of course, that's about one of the few actual respectable and just out of class that they're a better team than New Orleans, because it's at home at the Superdome in Louisiana, but still they're like a 3.5, 4 point dog, dog to win the game, even though they're playing on the road against the Saints. But anyways, let's get into this report here, the injury report here, because it was Friday. Today's Saturday, so they got one day before they play. But they had a pretty long board of a long list of players that didn't make the practice report. This is probably like the worst the Saints have been injury wise all year, and not just like casual injuries here and there. Like it's all like injuries where they're gonna miss the game, and the worst thing about it is the majority of them are starters. They're all like starters. I mean, half your team is gonna miss a game due to injuries that they sustained in the game against the Falcons. The game that could have been the sealing fate for the NFC South title. But anyways, let's get into this. So can I get a menu? So going off the practice report here. So we have Cam Jordan, and so there's one starter right there. Defensive end, never really ever missed any games due to injuries, but he's 33, 34 years old now, and even when he's played and been healthy, he hardly does much of anything other than he does good at stopping the run, but he's not the same pass rusher that he used to be, the guy that's gotten like 120 regular, sacks, but instead he just seems like he's more just stopping the run more than anything. It's not nothing I've seen blows me away that he's any good at rushing the passer anymore. But there's been some news and notes that even though he didn't practice all weekend, so he's got an ankle injury. Cameron Jordan has an ankle injury and didn't practice Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday, didn't practice Friday, but still he's listed as questionable and said that he's a daytime experience, to see if he's, giving him the last opportunity, last moment serial to play, even though he didn't practice all week. So he's still an option, still might play. The Saints definitely need him to play because they really don't have much of anything when it comes to the defensive end and the pass rush position after after their other defensive ends. So they definitely need to do that because what is it, Charles? See here. Yeah, Charles. Oh, I'm trying to find out what defensive end. Confused about that. Let's see. So New Orleans. Let's see roster. I hate when I think of players, but then like I go brain freeze when trying to think of them. Carl Granderson. I was thinking Chris Charles Grant is what I was thinking. All old defensive end lineman drafted back in like 2003 or 2004. But what I'm talking about is Carl Granderson, who ended up getting paid. He's really their only option that you can count on. Only reliable defensive pass rusher right now. And even since he's gotten paid, he's kind of slacked off a little bit. Doesn't seem to be the same power, same quality of player since he hit the uh, since he got paid. You're not seeing like last opportunities on any of these pass rush. At least he's staying healthy, but he's not out there getting sacks. This is two games in a row where the Saints have come away with like hardly any sacks or any pass rush or anything. They just the pass rush is non-existent. So definitely, even though Cam Jordan didn't practice all week, it would be helpful if he did, but I don't think it's going to be. It'll hurt the running game not having him more than it will being like a pass rusher because I mean he hasn't done anything as a pass rusher anyways. But went out of the game against the Falcons due to the knee injury, it was just that Saints were just run all over ball. But anyway, so that's that. So going to the next player because they got a lot that ended up just not playing in this game. Marcus May, safety Marcus May, dealing with shoulder injury. He's been dealing with all kinds of injuries this year. Like he'll play and then he gets suspended and he's got injury, but now he's hurt. He just has not been he hasn't been a good replacement compared to Marcus Marquise Alder, the other corner that we had that ended up going to the Baltimore Ravens. But he had a shoulder injury. He did not practice Wednesday, did not practice Thursday, and did not practice Friday, and he's out. And then Kendra Miller, the second or third string running back, he's continued to be out. He had the ankle injury like 2 weeks ago, and still dealing with that, even though he hasn't been a huge part of the offense when he's been healthy anyways. But he didn't practice Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday, didn't practice Friday, and he's out. So not a starter, but close to being one. So that's so then you have Rashid Shaheed, wide receiver, thigh. He did not practice Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, and he's out. So there's another starter that you're missing due to injuries, and this doesn't count Marcus Marshawn Lattimore and Michael Thomas going on IR. So that tells you how many starters we're dealing with here. So then next is linebacker Pete Warner dealing with a shoulder and an oblique, and he didn't practice Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, and he is out. So that's including Michael Thomas and Marshawn Lattimore. So that's 1, 2, and then you have Pete Warner, who's a starter. Then you have Rashid Shaheed, who's a starter, and then you have Marcus May, who's a starter, and then you have Cameron Jordan. So that's six. That's six starters on this team that are going to miss this game against the Detroit Lions. And then there's some other players that are still possibly questionable. Can't I don't think the Saints can handle much more than that handful of lost starters for this game. But they have some other people that are questionable. So you have Blake Rupe, who I understand while he's questionable or kind of feeling sore after he had what 6 field goal attempts in the game against the Falcons and had some kickoffs and things like that after the 5, 6 kickoffs they made. So he overexerted himself in the game against the Falcons last week. But he's dealing with the right groin injury, limited Wednesday, limited Thursday, and limited Friday. But he's listed as questionable, and the Saints added another kicker, someone that's not a great option if they have to. It's just hopefully that only have to do it like one time. But hopefully he's okay, and hopefully we can do more than just score 3-pointers. That's just too much. Takes too much. So then safety, you have Eric McCoy, who's dealing with a shoulder injury. He's limited on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and he's listed as questionable. So there's two more starters. They're not officially out yet, but they are questionable, and Blake and Eric. And then wide receiver, this is a surprising one here. This happened last year when in one of the times when he received a concussion, or it looked like he got knocked out or something like that. And majority of the times when someone gets a concussion or they're in a program protocol and they don't get like a bye week before their next fight, they usually always miss like at least one game. And I know he did last year. He had a similar situation last year. One of them he got the concussion and he missed the game, and then the other one, what was similar to how I feel about this one, is that he got the concussion, looked like he was knocked out on the sidelines, but still they have it as if it looks like he may be okay to play in this game. And I love Chris Olave. At times I love Chris Olave when he's really putting it in and making crazy catches and things like that. But other times when he gets knocked out or concussed, I don't know. It worries me that can't be too healthy. That already, and he's missed some games due to the concussions. That he's only been in the NFL for about a game and a half with game numbers included, and he's already been in concussion protocol 3 times already, and he's possibly able to play in this game. I don't know. I feel if 1 or 2 more concussions in his career, sadly, would be over. But Chris Olave, wide receiver, saying concussion protocol. He was limited Wednesday, limited Thursday, and then he was full on Friday and listed as questionable. Be interesting to see if he actually ends up playing, which is kind of all these other injuries are different things like ankle, shoulder, thigh, things like that. But really, the injury that probably is the most concerning, from here into the future is probably definitely concussion protocol. So it'll be interesting to see if he misses at least one game or if he plays the next week, which is just, I don't know, a little suspicious to me. And then we have tackle Ryan Ramczyk, knee, and he was limited Wednesday, limited Thursday, but was full on Friday. So that's good. No game time status, so they should be good. And that goes for both of their tackles. So you had Andres Pete tackle as well, dealing with shoulder, and he popped up on Friday for the injury report. But he wasn't. There's nothing for Wednesday, nothing for Thursday, and then he was full on Wednesday. So he's a little shook up. His shoulder must have been a little shook up, but he doesn't have any game time designation or anything like that. So should be all good, for the most part. Surprising with how many players were going down in the game against the Falcons. You had awful offensive linemen going in, going out. So really, now that the injury reports came, it's a little surprised that it's not as bad as it looked like it was going to be after the Falcons game. Even though they have like six starters on the list, and two of them are on IR. Two of the better players. That definitely one of the best players on defense, and Marshawn Lattimore. But maybe you could argue a little bit. But the hard one is for me when it comes to players versus swapped out players. It's definitely Marcus May. I'd much rather have Marcus Williams now at this point, because hell, Marcus Williams very, very similar player to Marcus Williams. I would lean more to the side that he's more of a strong safety, but he's a good player when he's healthy. But the thing is, he seems like every other game he's missing it due to something, which I think that's something that probably should have known when they picked him over Marcus Williams, because he was already coming into the game off of not only off of a suspension. He was getting suspended for 3 games, but then he was also coming off an ACL surgery as well. So I just don't. That's the one that I wish they'd stuck to. They should have definitely stayed with Marcus Williams than going to Marcus May. But that was 2 seasons ago now. But anyways, so it'd be interesting to see how this game turns out here, with all the Saints players missing, and they're playing a motivated Lions team that lost. They lost a game, probably weren't expecting to lose to the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving, but pretty much got handled in that game. So let's go over their players real quick. They don't have many players that are dealing with injuries, and that's probably one of the reasons that the Lions are a better team, even though the Saints were pretty healthy there for the first 10 weeks or so, 9-10 weeks. We couldn't do anything to it, but mostly a healthy team are usually winning, and having a healthy team usually go hands in hand. But let's get into that. So first one on the list here is linebacker Alex Anzalone, and he's having a hand injury. I think he may have broke one of his hands and having surgery for it. But he didn't practice Wednesday, he didn't practice Thursday, and didn't practice Friday, and he's listed as doubtful. Which that's kind of a shame, honestly, because he was one of the great players, one of the great linebackers drafted by the Saints in 2017. But he always dealt with injuries, always had like a shoulder injury or something like that. But since he's gone to the Detroit Lions, he's definitely looked like one of the top linebackers in the league, and has been able to stay healthy a little bit better until now, of course. But yeah, Alex Anzalone, that's a player that the Saints are missing. I'm sure they would love to have him back now that it looks like Demario Davis is kind of become kind of wash in front of us, and now Pete Warner is hurt. It would be really nice to have Alex Anzalone right now, but I guess it really wouldn't matter if you were to switch him out with Pete Warner or Alex Anzalone at the same time. Both of them are going to miss this game, so that's a little disappointing. And then at guard, you have Jonah Jackson, who's dealing with the ankle/wrist injury, but he was limited on Wednesday, full on Thursday, full on Friday, and listed as questionable. But I imagine being full on Wednesday and Friday, he'll play. So there's no concern about that. Really, only worrying about like 2 players, and only one that's really actually played at all this year. So you have a guard, Joanne Jackson, ankle wrist. He was limited Wednesday, full on Friday, or full on Thursday, full on Friday, listed as questionable, but I imagine he'll play. And then you have running back, their starting running back, David Montgomery, dealing with a foot injury, and he was limited Wednesday, full on Thursday, full on Friday, and no game time designated. So you're definitely see him. And then you have safety Tracy Walker, shoulder, limited Wednesday, full on Thursday, full on Friday, and then not listed. So he's good to go. And then you have safety F2 Male Fonwu hand, and he's was full Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and no game time status. And then you have center Frank Ragnow, back and toe. He was full Wednesday, but then didn't practice Thursday, but then was full on Friday, and then there's no designation. And this is the other player that's out, but doesn't really count anyways because he's been out like all year and coming off of like an ACL injury, and he's a quarterback, and we already have the quarterback, their starter. But yeah, quarterback Hendon Hooker, knee quarterback. He was limited Wednesday, limited Friday, limited Thursday, and no full Thursday and full Thursday, and then he's listed it out. So he's still coming back from that knee injury and still trying to just train and get back into the flow of things before they actually start him. And even if he started or played him, he'd probably just be a third string backup or something, or may just keep him safe and not let him play at all this year, because definitely most of your success comes with just Jared Goff, you know. But those are the injury reports. The Saints are definitely down bad in comparison to what the Saints are dealing with. But talking about talking about the Saints and their passes. Let's see. The Saints had the it's the it's the Detroit Lions that are basically like the Saints Junior. You know, their offense. They have like players on their team that are like ex Saints player, but they also have like a bunch of like coaches as well. You know, so people obviously know that Dan Campbell. He was the coach for the Saints for a little while. He was like a tight end coach, and he played tight end for the Saints like around the Super Bowl era and all that. But then they also have Mark Brunell, who was also he was like a backup quarterback during the 2009 Super Bowl as well. He's never nothing more than just a linebacker for the Saints. He got a lot of his pro career done with like the Washington. Well, they were the Redskins at the time, so they didn't have any other special name, but had some time with the Redskins. And then let's see, also has JT. Let's see, so it goes Aaron Glenn as well, who was like a great corner, you know, for the Saints, and then he was a defensive back coach for them, and now he's with the Lions as well. Like this is like the junior Lions, or the was it the Detroit Saints, kind of is how I kind of look at this team. And then JT Barrett, until just recently, I didn't know that he was on their training staff, but he was never really a Saint. Honestly, he was always just kind of like a practice squad, uh, preseason type of player. He never really got any actual snaps of him being a Saint, but he was around a couple off seasons, you know, during the preseason and training camp, and he wore number 5. I believe he wore number 5 uh, before Teddy Bridgewater started playing. But yeah, so the Detroit Lions, they're like the Detroit Saints or the New Orleans Lions, and they're a good team. They've gone from nothing to, you know, 1 or 2 seed in the NFC. In the NFC, you know, I don't know if that speaks more about how good the NFC is, or if the Lions are that great of a team. Should be interested in how this game goes. I've seen some stats. I'm looking for them. I've tried to look for them so I could clarify them to everybody, but I couldn't find them again. I swear that I saw them on Twitter somewhere, or just more than likely probably Twitter, or maybe Facebook, but I think it was Twitter or X, and it showed like in the first like six games of the season, the Detroit Lions were like one of the number one teams when it came to like scoring in the red zone and long passes and yardage and things like that. So they were like in the top five in all of those. But towards the last five games they've had, and especially the game that they played recently, and they lost to the Green Bay Packers, is that they're one of the worst teams scoring in the red zone, and one of the worst running and stuff. So their team, the way that their team has been able to score and do things like that, is very very similar to kind of how the Saints have been able to score in the red zone. So it's kind of like uh, immovable objects from like an unstoppable party almost. So it'd be interesting to see who's actually able to score and look good in the red zone, because none of these two teams really have a good history of it. At least the Saints don't. At least the Lions don't in the last five games, but they look great in the first six games of the year. So and then they've lost their last game. So it'd be kind of interesting to see what version of the Detroit Lions they get. Do they get the first six games, or the one that's kind of had a hard time scoring in the red zone? But let's see. Let's move on now. Talk about the practice and what the Lions are capable of. Let's talk about player of the game, um, hot take, and then game score. So I'm gonna go hot take first, because the player of the game kind of goes with the score. But my hot take is that the Saints are gonna score a touchdown. Oh yeah. They didn't score a touchdown last week, and haven't scored one in a while, passing touchdown in a while with uh, Derek Carr, but they're going to score a touchdown in this game, and it's going to be in the first quarter touchdown, and it's going to be Derek Carr's 11th passing touchdown of the year. So you're going to actually break that cycle to where they're finally able to get something together, and get something together early on in the game. And then going to Price here. This is kind of a two-parter with my player of the game and my price here. So I am going out on a limb here, and I'm picking the Saints to actually beat the Detroit Lions. I imagine like almost nobody is actually picking them to beat the Detroit Lions, but I have them beating the Detroit Lions, and the way I have them doing that is by a score of 23 to 21, either 23 to 21 or 23 to 20. Somewhere in that range is what the Detroit Lions are going to get. But the thing that's ending it, and this now will be my player of the game, and that's the guy that you could easily, after Olave or Honey Badger last week, you could have easily said that the kicker, Saints kicker, would have been all good for that. So um, let's see. Yeah, so Blake Groupie will be your player of the game. He hopefully he doesn't have to kick as many field goals, but hopefully he can kick the game winner. And uh, so the player of the game, and all that. So it's Blake Groupie, and then you know, uh, and then you have the Saints actually scoring in the first quarter, passing touchdown by Derek Carr, and then you have the Saints actually winning 23 to 21 or 23 to 20. And the reason I say that they're going to go and beat them, they'll go beat the Detroit Lions that have been so good, and the Saints just look helpless and are down bad with injuries now too. But I think somehow, some way, they'll end up pulling out this win, And the thing that happens here is, yeah, they pull out this win and beat the Detroit Lions at home and all that. But then they'll turn around and next week they play the Carolina Panthers at home, who are like what, they're 1-11 or 1-12, and the Saints are going to end up losing to them. So you kind of almost have my score for next week, because that's just the Saintsiest thing that can happen, is that the Saints beat a team that's clearly on path for being one of the best teams in the playoffs, to losing to a team that is probably best off getting the first pick in the draft, but they don't even get it because they used it to trade for Bryce Young and all that. So it's going to go to the Texans, but still, you're going to end up going, actually somehow pulling off a win against one of the best teams in the NFC and losing literally to the worst team in the NFC. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. This game, I have this with some of these recent games that they've lost out. I've already had kind of a feeling like, oh, they're gonna lose, or something's gonna happen. And now that they have like all the injuries, it's weird now that this game is kind of like a win or lose or win or die kind of game. But the Saints don't have really much pressure behind them anymore to win this game. This is one of the few games this year where they're not really expected to win. I think that is going to work in their favor. But anyways, I think that's all I have for you this evening. So, who dat? And can I get a check, please?